Hey guys, what's up? This is Darklaw here, and I thought I'd do something just a little different today because after watching a video from little known YouTuber under the name Jedi Knight 87, with where she made a video talking about her top 16 favorite games. Um, it was very interesting to watch. So I thought I'd do a little video kind of like that of my own, but I'm considering I have a lot of games that I absolutely love in my collection, it was really tough for me to pick even like 10 or 15, so I decided to get it up to 30 just so I can be able to cover some of my all-time favorite games that I've got. And this is mostly stuff that keep in mind, this isn't exactly games that, keep in mind, all these games here, I mean, some of my all-time favorite games are games I don't even have, but I have played them quite a lot, and I really enjoyed them to death. I just don't have these games for one reason or another. So, in turn, I'm just gonna show my favorite games that I have in my collection, and I handpicked out 30 different games from various systems, most of them except for the only systems I did not pick anything from were original Xbox, Xbox One, or Xbox 360, and I didn't really pick anything from Genesis or PSP or N64 either because, truth be told, I any of the Genesis games I've got, I my Genesis collection isn't very big. Neither is my N64 collection, or even my uh, original Xbox collection, and that's just because, well, thing is, um, I haven't really been looking for Genesis games. I just haven't. I've been mostly collecting for my PlayStation systems, and also, I haven't. There was just nothing I got for PSP that I would consider my favorite, even though I do have some pretty solid stuff. And also the same as my N64. While I love the N64, I never really grew up with it, so it's just to put any of these games in my favorites would just not really work out for me because I'd have nothing to say of them. But each game I have here that's my favorite has a very personal connection to me, and I love it for one reason or another. So, let's get started. So the first one I'll talk about is a PlayStation 2 game, Burnout 3 Takedown. I just want to clarify that this is not going to be in any particular order because to try and put all of these in order would just be like picking out my favorite, would just be like choosing my favorite child. It would just not work because I love these games all for very different reasons. And as such, putting them in order would just be too rough for me, so I'm just gonna kind of do this in a very random order. But anyways, first up is Burnout 3 Takedown, which I picked this one because this game is very important to me. This was one of the last games I ever got to play with my dad before I moved to the South. My dad is a huge racing game fan. He loves racing and cars in general. So, we would play this quite often, especially in the crash mode, sometimes in the racing mode itself. And it was just always fun to play. I enjoyed playing this game with him, and I just love the fact that you could just be able to wreck other people's cars, and the fact that they added and the crash mode is even better than before in Burnout 3 than it was in Burnout 2. Just the fact that they even added the takedown mechanic, which allows you to destroy other opponents' cars, was just an awesome mechanic in general. Basically, EA and Criterion overhauled this game to the nth degree. It is so much better than the first two games, and for for one of those reasons, it's what I consider one of the best games in the series. I don't have Revenge, sadly, but I do think it's slightly better. But I love this game to death. It is one of those PS2 games I'm always going to go back to. I just wish I had a PS2 to play it on because mine's broken at the moment. But yeah, Burnout 3 is just incredibly fun, and this is one of those games I always can get to play with my friends most of the time, just because it's not because the game that you don't have to put too much thought into. You can just pick up and play and just go crazy, just drive as recklessly as you can, so long as you don't wreck yourself. It's fun stuff. The next one I want to talk about that's important to me here is Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm a big fan of the Kingdom Hearts series. In fact, I pre-ordered Kingdom Hearts 3, and when I got it, when I got my copy, it came with a poster, which I am in love with. I absolutely love it. I won't say Kingdom Hearts 3 is my favorite because it isn't. In fact, I don't think Kingdom Hearts 3 is as good as KH2, but it's still a really awesome game. But it does have its problems, but I don't think the problems are that bad to hamper my experience. But KH2, on the other hand, is a beautiful game in itself. It is just absolutely fantastic. Though I suggest getting the final mix version that's on PS3 or PS4 because the final mix version has so much more content. But this is like the most physical I can show at the moment, as I don't have the 1.5, 2.5 collection on PS4 at the moment. So this is the best I can show. But make no mistake, this is still Kingdom Hearts 2, and I'm going to talk about it. It is my favorite Kingdom Hearts game for many reasons. One of them, I love the story. I know the first 3 hours are kind of shit, especially considering how boring it gets. But after the first 3 hours, that's when the game starts picking up, and after that, the game is a really fun ride all the way through. All the combos you can do, the attacks you can do. The story actually is really good, in my opinion, and I know the story of Kingdom Hearts is pretty complicated, but if you play through all the games in order, you won't be so confused anymore. I mean, of course, there's going to be times where the games leave you with a lot more questions than answers, but I found a lot to enjoy, so yeah, I really love this game. The worlds, the story, the gameplay, the drive forms, just about everything. Honestly, this is the Kingdom Hearts game I'd say has the least amount of problems, because this game basically perfected what made the first one great. I know the first one is a very simple... I know a lot of people would consider the first one to be the best game in the series. It'd be a simple... And yeah, it is very straightforward and simple with the story, but Kingdom Hearts 2, I feel, improves in so many aspects, especially the camera controls, because I found the camera in the first game to be kind of clunky, but in the second one, they really fixed it, and then some, and they just overhauled everything, and I love it to death. It's a gorgeous game, too. One of the best-looking games on the PlayStation 2, and in fact, it is basically a hardware pusher through and through. The Final Mix version is even better, though, because it includes a bunch of extra content and data battles where you can fight against the organization members again, but harder versions, and it can be really fun. Although some of them are kind of bullshit, but it is an amazing RPG and one of my all-time favorite RPGs ever. I love Kingdom Hearts so damn much. Although not as much as my brother. My brother's like the ultimate Kingdom Hearts fanatic, I would say. But Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorite franchises of all time, so gotta have that in my favorites list. Next one I chose is Gran Turismo 3. I would have picked 4, but 3 served a lot more purpose for me. This game is very near and dear to me for a number of reasons. It was the first PS2 game I ever got. Especially considering when I first got my PS2 all the way back in 2002, the first game I ever got were PS1 games, and they were the first 3 Spyro games. So, I didn't have a PS2 game at that point, just a PlayStation 1 game. But then my dad bought this at Walmart. In fact, I was there when he did. And we started to play it, and my dad and I both fell in love with this game, and we just never stopped playing. He enjoyed it, I enjoyed it, and I started playing it even more later on in my life when the PS2 finally started becoming more of my system, because my family would play the PS2 a lot, and then later on I would basically be the one playing the system the most overall. And also, here's the crazy thing. For the longest time, I was always terrible at this game. Like, I was just absolute shit. But my brother actually showed me one thing that really improved my skills a lot, and that was the actual racing mechanics themselves. Like, you can't just go fast and expect to turn on a dime. You actually have to brake at a specific gear when you're using the automatic or manual, whatever it is, in order to, whichever you prefer, in order to make a proper turn. And what do you know? That's exactly what I did, and that alone actually helped my skill and made me become a better player. Also, the game just plays and feels better to me compared to Gran Turismo 4. Gran Turismo 4 was a very ambitious project, and it had a ton of content, especially being a real hardware pusher for the system. But the game was more or less style over substance, but Gran Turismo 3 was more substance over style. While it's still a very good-looking game today, I mean, this game still looks great to this day. This is the Gran Turismo game I feel has aged the best out of all the ones I've played, because this one has the best controls, and it also has the least amount of issues. Not only that, but instead of focusing on quantity, it actually focuses more on quality, and it basically perfected the simulation racing genre for the system. And I have a lot to thank GT3 for. It's just a fantastic game. Next one is a genre that is normally something I would never play, but here it is. Hot Shots Golf 4. Normally, I hate sports games. I don't play them. I usually don't. I mean, I used to when I was younger, but I stopped playing them when I was like 15 or 16. And I'm honestly not a fan of these kinds of games most of the time, because honestly, I don't care. Because honestly, I just find them to be very boring, not that interesting, and I'd rather just play sports in real life than I do in the video game, because that's the kind of shit I can easily do in real life. But Hot Shots Golf 4 is one of the few exceptions to that rule. And there's a lot of reasons as to why this game is so important to me. One of the things that I love about this game is the amount of character this game has. Like, it is so incredibly fun to play. There's so many characters to choose from, and they all have their own different personalities, which is great. And the quotes the characters spew out are just so hilarious, especially when you go out of bounds and shank or something like that, and they'll spout out some hilarious quotes, like one of the caddies, Greg, he says, "Run a tractor over me!" if you go out of bounds. Or he'll even say "It's not a day for skirts" when the wind is blowing in very fast, or else he'll even say, "Someone's toupee just blew off." It's so hilarious, and it is a lot of fun working on trying to get all the characters. Now, I have to admit, I absolutely despise losing in this game because while I do consider myself to be a pretty decent player of this game, it is not easy. Like, holy shit. If you screw up in this game, like if you end up shanking, like slicing or hooking, you will the game will the game will waste no time in telling you how bad you fucked up. And while it is very agonizing to see, it does bring off some pretty hilarious results. And it's the kind of game that just makes me want to play it more. Like it's challenging me to play better and to plan my strategy better. I don't think it's pure bullshit at all. I think there is actually some sort of strategy to it, which is kind of nice. And there is just a ton of content. Not only that, multiplayer mode is a blast to play, especially with friends. Because I used to play this with my family all the time, and I even played it with my friends a few times. It's just such an amazing game, and it makes me sad not many people talk about it. I do love that this series is starting to gain a resurgence, but I really do think that more people need to play it because it is just a fun sports franchise. Soul Calibur 2 on PlayStation 2. Now, I do have the GameCube version as well, but the reason I picked the PS2 version is because this is the one that really got me into the series. I love the Soul Calibur games. I've been a fan since this game. Here's the thing. I got this game all the way back in 2010 as part of this triple pack for PS2 called the Namco Classic Fighter Collection, which contained this, Tekken 4, and Tekken Tag Tournament. And this was the one I played the most, but I played a lot of Tekken 4 as well. But Soul Calibur 2 is my favorite of the three, and it's my favorite game in the series for a number of reasons, because I love the gameplay, I love the controls on the system. The amount of characters are great. There's loads of content to choose from. The story is actually pretty decent, like the campaign, anyways, because it's not short. It actually has a very lengthy campaign, which is pretty neat. Although some of the boss fights are kind of bullshit, but for the most part, it's very good. Brings on a really good challenge. And what I love about this version is that it includes Heihachi from the Tekken series, which is one of my favorite fighting game franchises of all time, if not my favorite. And as such, this alone made me very happy that he actually made it into this game. I know the GameCube version has Link, and I understand why people would prefer that version, but it's Heihachi for me because I'm a Tekken freak. I love this series to death. But I played this one so damn much. This was the fighting game that really made my love for the genre flourish even more, like King of Fighters 2006 did, only to a greater degree. It is just so much fun to play. I honestly, even though I played 4 and 5 a lot on the PS3 as well, I can still go back to this game every now and then, regardless of the version it's on. The Soul Calibur series is incredibly timeless. It's one of the most it's one of the best. It's, in my opinion, one of the greatest fighters that's ever been conceived. It's just such a good series. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. The case may make you think it's Substance, because it kind of does look like Substance. But I just have Sons of Liberty right here. But, this is probably what I consider my favorite Metal Gear Solid game. Especially considering this really made me love the series even more, and I honestly wasn't bothered by the switch between Snake and Raiden. Honestly, I think a lot of the reason why people only hate on Raiden is just because he's not Snake. Which I think is a really stupid reason, and I know Snake is the face of the series, and they haven't messed with it so much since, except for Metal Gear Rising. But really, I didn't have a problem with that because I honestly thought Raiden was a fairly good character. I know a lot of people hate Raiden, even if he's if it's even. I know there are a lot of people that think he's probably a total sissy, like a whiny bitch. But I honestly didn't think that at all. I honestly understand how he feels in this game. I would have felt the same way too if I was put under these conditions that he was forced to live under. I mean, really, if you actually play this game more, you'd start to understand. And honestly, I don't blame him. I totally get why he even feels that way in the first place. He was forced at all this shit, and it hurts him so much that he has to go through this. And the fact that he never lived, and the fact that it's a life he never chose, he's basically, he's always had to do this stuff, and just, like, no one even gives a shit. They just want him to suffer, and that is truly awful. I feel bad for him because of that. He's just a very relatable character, and honestly, I'm not sure why people consider him such a weakling when really there is a reason why he is so emotional. Because honestly, given the context, it actually makes a lot more sense. And I do think that the gameplay is even better than the first one. Basically, it took what the first game did, and it made it even, and it improved upon so much. Even though I still love the first game to death, and I'll show that in a moment, in a little bit. I'm taking too long as is, and I've only talked about like 6 games. Shit. Next up is Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Now, here's the thing. I love Symphony of the Night. It is another one of my favorite games in the series. But Castlevania Curse of Darkness is what started it all for me. And without the series, I wouldn't have gone into it as much. Because this was my gateway into the franchise. And there's just many reasons as to why I love this game to death. I love the Innocent Devil system. You got like a bunch of different devils, a bunch of different companions that aid you in your quest. Like you've got a battle golem called a Magmard. You got an infant fairy that heals you. You've got a crow which allows you to glide from spaces you couldn't normally reach. And then you've got a devil which allows you to crawl through places you couldn't go through before. And you even got a wizard that does a lot of magic attacks, like they can stop time, like it can stop time, or it can freeze time. It's great stuff. I really love it, and I also love the large amount of weapons you have in this game. Like you can tear through a bunch of different enemies with different weapons, swords, axes, clubs, the whole 9 yards, and a lot of armor you can craft too. And I love the gameplay style. It feels very hack and slash heavy, and I love it. And not only that, it has some RPG elements too, which actually fits quite well with the game. I love this game to absolute death. Without it, sorry about that. Without it, I wouldn't have been into the series as much as I am today. Next one is a game I don't have proper cover art for, but it's Tony Hawk's Underground. I had a hard time deciding which Tony Hawk game was my favorite, because I have most of the Tony Hawk games up to American Wasteland, except for Underground 2. I don't have that. I used to, but I don't have it anymore because my copy was broken, so I threw it out. And I also have Pro Skater 5, but we don't talk about that game. Just the less we talk about it, the better. But anyways, Tony Hawk's Underground, it was really hard choosing between Pro Skater 3 or 4, or this one. But I had to go with Underground by a slight margin for many reasons. One of the reasons why I picked this one is because basically it's the kind of game where you practically where you're basically I don't know how to properly word this. You're basically in the shoes of your own character, and it's like you are in the game. The world is your playground. You can skate anywhere you want to and explore. it is just so much fun, and there was a lot of new stuff they added that actually fits quite well into the game, like being able to get off your board and go on foot, which can also serve as with some handy trick stuff, and it's kind of neat what they did there. And I also love I also love the way the game plays. It just feels so incredibly smooth, and there's loads of tricks to choose from. You can even create your own tricks, which is pretty epic. The character customization is also so much better here than it was in the previous games, and it also has some of the best part creations I've ever seen. It's just absolutely freaking amazing. Like, basically, this is like I said, the world is your playground. Just make up your stuff. You can do so much with this game. It is unbelievable, and that's the reason why I consider this to be my favorite game in the series. It is so good. Not only that, but a really good soundtrack with some really awesome punk, rock, metal, and hip hop band artists like NoFX. What else is there? 9 Pound Hammer, um, Alkaline Trio, Kiss, Queens of the Stone Age, um, Jurassic 5. What else is there? Nas. I think Nas was in this game. I'm not sure. Um, and who else is there? Or the Transplants. Um, In Flames, Crutch or Clutch, not Crutch, Clutch. And what else is there? There's just a lot of bands and artists I love within this game. It's just hard to name them all. There's like so many. There's like over 70 different songs in the game, which is double what Pro Skater 4 had, which Pro Skater 4 had a like total of 35 different songs. But this one has like 75 or something like that. It's just crazy. And it is just an awesome soundtrack. I love it. Now for the GameCube stuff, which is another system that I grew up playing and I still love to this day. Spider-Man 2. I do have this on the PS2 as well, but I picked the GameCube version because this is the version I played a lot of and I still play it today. This is a prime example of how to do a movie game right, and considering the fact I was already on a Spider-Man kick at the time when I first got this, of course I was all on board for that, and especially considering I loved the movie. Like, Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite Spider-Man movie, but Homecoming is also really good as well. I highly recommend checking that out. I haven't gotten around to seeing Into the Spider-Verse yet, but I will get to soon, because I am really excited to see that one. But Spider-Man 2 is just fantastic. It still plays very well. I've heard the new Spider-Man video game is actually really damn good, but I haven't played it, so I can't say anything at the moment. But Spider-Man 2 on the GameCube is just freaking awesome. I love this. I love the environment you can explore in. I love how it plays. Just a really fun. It's just a really fun game where you actually feel like Spider-Man, and the combat's pretty fun. The story is actually quite memorable. I mean, it's kind of nonsensical in ways, but it does follow the movie fairly well while also taking liberties here and there, and it's just so much fun. The one thing I don't like about this game, though, is that the combat, while it is great, it does tend to get a little repetitive, and the boss fights I wasn't really a big fan of because they tended to be pure bullshit at times. I also wasn't a big fan of the pizza chase sequences because, well, one thing ruins it for me, and it's the music. I know the music is kind of hilarious. I know the music choice is not meant to be taken seriously, but the problem I have is that the accordions kind of get on my nerves, and I don't know. It's an auditory assault for me. I wasn't a fan of it, but I love this game. It's just so much fun. Need for Speed Most Wanted. Another game I also have on the PS2, but I picked the GameCube version because this is the version I played the most of. Um, this is my favorite Need for Speed game, bar none. I love Underground 1 and 2 as well, but this one's my favorite because of the better customization. Not only that, but the police chases are a hell of a lot of fun. And I found the free roaming to be pretty nice as well, and it's just a really awesome game. So, yeah. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. This is going to be a very strange thing to say, especially considering this is a very controversial opinion. But in my personal opinion, this is my favorite Zelda game. Yeah, I know, crazy, especially considering this is very different from the other Zelda games. But there is a reason why I love this game so much. The main reason I love this game is because it makes me feel like I'm actually on a grand adventure. I love it so much for that reason because every time I play this, I always feel like I'm a part of the experience because it's just so much fun going around and exploring the world and beating the stuffing out of a bunch of monsters, exploring different towns and riding the seas. I know a lot of people don't really like those segments, but I actually had a lot of fun with them, especially the music, because, I mean, let's face it, the music when you do Sail the Seas is really fucking awesome. But I love the soundtrack. I love the exploration. I love how it plays. I love the combat. The puzzles are actually pretty fun, although a couple of them are kind of annoying. Um, it's just a really awesome game too, and I love this art style. I love the cel shaded graphics. It looks really freaking good. So, yeah, I've I think I've embellished this game enough. I'll leave you guys to what you think in the comments below. If it's your favorite game in the series, let me know, and if it's not, then just let me know what your favorite Zelda game is in the comments, because I'd love to hear what you guys think. Super Mario Sunshine, another very polarizing game that I know a lot of people are very divisive on. Um, as much as I love Super Mario World and Yoshi's Island, I would have to choose this as my favorite game in the Mario game series because I love how it plays. I love the camera controls. It actually feels very nice to control Mario in a 3D environment. And I don't think the Mario series would get that kind of freedom for a very long time after that until Mario Odyssey came out. And I'm really glad that they went back to that kind of style with the camera controls. It feels very good to play through, and it's just awesome. But one of but I love Mario Sunshine for a number of reasons. It was the first GameCube game I ever got because I got this with my system, which I got my system shortly after the PS2, and I played this one so freaking much, and I loved how it played. It was very different from the other Mario games, and that's actually what I love about it is how different it feels and how different it is story wise in terms of how the game is structured and set up. It's just really well done to me, and I really like it. And I also like the voice acting. It is kind of, I know it's very weird, or Mario having voice acting, especially considering they haven't done it since, but I don't mind it. I honestly thought the voice acting was actually alright. It's not terrible. I mean, for 2002, it isn't bad. It's not anything like Mega Man X7's voice acting, which is just awful, but this game, I actually didn't mind the voice acting. But one of the things I really liked the most about this game was the flood mechanics. I absolutely love that freaking I absolutely love that freaking water pump. His voice just always manages. He's got that like sort of charm to him, and he's also a very useful tool, just clearing up goop. But he's also very proficient in attacking enemies, and it is quite fun to use him. The whole game is just a lot of fun, and I will admit there are a few problems I have with this game. Like, some of the levels just flat out suck for me. But even with all its issues and the occasional graphical glitches, I love this game to death. Well, I am not ashamed to admit that this is my favorite Mario game. And another game that, and this is a game that I know people are probably going to say, oh, of course you picked this, but Super Smash Bros. Melee. I know, very, very overdone pick, but there is a reason I love this game. I personally like this one the most out of all the other Smash Brothers games. I played this one so much, I wasted countless hours on it, unlocking characters and courses and whatnot, and the trophies and stuff like that. It's just so much fun to play, and I really enjoyed my time with it. Like, so many memories I have stored on this disc. Though sadly my brother accidentally erased my data, and I was so shocked and devastated when he did that. He didn't mean to. It was a total accident, but when it happened, I was pretty upset. But I will never forget all these memories I had playing through this game. I just love this game so freaking much. I love how it plays. I love how it looks. I love how it feels. It's just an awesome game overall. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I love this game. Now here's some PS4 games. Keep in mind, 2 out of 3 of them, they are based more on older content. One is a relatively new game, and this next one I might be cheating just a little bit because it's a compilation of a bunch of games, but Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2. There is a reason why I put this into my favorites that I have, because this one really made me become a fan of the Mega Man series. I always was interested in the series before, and I even beat Mega Man 10 prior to this, but I didn't really get a chance to play a lot of the games until I got this, and then I started becoming obsessed with the X series. This is my favorite Mega Man series by far. I like the classic series as well, but I like the X series the most for a number of reasons. The gameplay, in my opinion, just feels so much better. Being able to wall jump, the dash function, and the charge shot. I love it so much. I know it did get introduced in Mega Man. I know the charge shot got introduced in Mega Man 4, but the charge shot just feels so much better in the X series, and I do think most of the X games are great. Except for X7. That one is a total pile of trash. X6 it's not very good. X6 is hot garbage for sure. But X6 is a game that, while I do think it's bad, it's a bad game that I like. Even I actually do find enjoyment in playing X6, even though I know the game is total shit. But I enjoy it. X7, on the other hand, I cannot find anything to like about it. It's just such a messy game. But most of the games in the X series I have had so much fun with, and some of my favorites on here are X1, X2, X4, and X5. I love them the most. My least favorite is, of course, X7, but X1, X4, X2, X5, those are my favorites. I love this compilation so damn much. And I've beaten just about every single one of them except for X8. I actually haven't finished X8. Only reason, I just never got around to it. Like, I got very close to finishing it. I'm just at the very last stage with the boss rush and the Sigma fight. I just haven't finished it. That's it. I just haven't finished it. But yeah, the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, I always was interested in the X series, and then I finally got this, and played the hell out of all these games, and really, there is just, because of this series, I've become a total fan of the Mega Man series, and once I finish the classic series, I'm thinking about moving on to the Zero series, because I love the series that much. I mean, there's a lot of ground for me to cover here, so yeah, good stuff. Next one is just basically a port, but It's one of my favorite horror games of all time, if not maybe my favorite horror game ever. Resident Evil 4. I did used to have this on the PS2 back then, but my PS2 copy broke, so I actually had to throw, and it was beyond repair, so I had to throw that away. But I did manage to get a copy of the PS4 version of RE4. I'm really happy because it's still the same game, great game I remember, and it feels just as good to play as it did before, with a few minor concessions, but everything is still very much intact. And I honestly love this game to death. It's so good. Like, it's got that nice little balance between horror and action, which I love. I love the third-person controls. It actually feels quite nice. And I know the Resident Evil games feel, well, and I know the Resident Evil games are more horror-centric with a fixed camera perspective, and I'm not opposed to that. I do not disagree with that, but I just prefer this style. It just feels much more fluid to me, and I like how it plays. But another thing I really love about this game is how it handles resource management. While bullets are definitely more abundant here than they are in the first 3 Resident Evil games, they're still not frequent, and you still gotta use your bullets wisely. So the game actually does allow you to be strategic with what you do. So I think this game actually has some good trade-offs that don't hinder the game. In fact, actually it makes the game even better. And there are even some puzzles which are kind of interesting, but there are also some puzzles I don't really care for too much. But this is without a doubt, in my opinion, what I consider to be the best Resident Evil game. Some may say 2 is the best, and I love 2, well, the original 2. I never played the remake yet, but I love this one the most. I friggin' love RE4. It's such an amazing game. Monster Hunter World. Oh my god, 42 minutes in. Wow. Monster Hunter is a series that has eluded me over the years. I played the first game on the PS2 quite a bit, but I never finished it. And then I played Monster Hunter 3, or Monster Hunter Tri on the Wii, and then Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on the 3DS. But I just couldn't really... But I just stopped playing these games after a while because I just wasn't interested anymore. And for the longest time, I just kind of dropped out of the series. Until I picked this up back in mid-2018, and I was heavily surprised. I wasn't expecting this game to be as good as it was, because this game turned out to be a freaking masterpiece. I love this game so much. The game just feels... Oh my god, my cat is... That's not good. I've got to take care of that after this. This game honestly feels so much better to play than previous entries in the series. The combat's a lot more fun and isn't as heavy as before. Fighting monsters just feels a lot more satisfying here. Resource management is better here. And I love the music. It is just awesome. Not only that, but it's the first Monster Hunter game to have full voice acting, and for the first time, for their first time doing it, it's actually pretty damn solid. Though there is one issue to that. The lip syncing is kind of messy. Seriously, like every time the characters talk, their voice doesn't match up to their voices don't match up to their lips, and it's kind of weird to look at, but you don't really think about it too much. The voice acting itself is actually pretty solid. You even got some noticeable faces like Matthew Mercer, for example. If you don't know who that is, he's the guy that voices McCree from Overwatch and Yusuke Kitagawa from Persona 5. He also voices Leon from Resident Evil in the later games, starting with Resident Evil 6 onward. And it's just awesome. Not only that, but it's also incredibly fun to play with friends, and playing this game And playing Monster Hunter with friends has never been this satisfying. It just feels so much better to play here than it's ever been on the PlayStation 2. It is so damn good. I love this game so much. If you haven't played a Monster Hunter game, this is a really good place to start. It's also the reason. It's also. And it's also thanks to Monster Hunter World, the game's actually getting a lot more recognition, which I think is great because the series has been pretty niche for a long time, and I'm glad more people are playing it. Now for PlayStation 3, because I actually got quite a bit to talk about with some PlayStation 3 games, as they basically as PlayStation 3 basically made up most of my high school years. First one I want to talk about is BioShock 2. This is the game that made me respect and appreciate FPS games. Before then, I absolutely hated them and I was absolute shit with them. But this game really changed my outlook on first-person shooters as a whole. Mainly because I absolutely love the story of this game. The story is amazing. Like, holy shit. This game engrossed me. I mean, at first I found it to be kind of slow, but once I started getting a feel for it, I became hooked, and the story really intrigued me to the point where I wanted to keep going, and I did. In fact, I played through this game like 5 times. That's how much I love this game. I freaking enjoy this game so much. I just honestly couldn't put it down. It's such a great game. I love the shoot. I love the combat. It just feels so refined. It just feels so much fun to play, and the atmosphere is very tense and foreboding. It's not quite a horror game, but it does have some horror elements to it, and there are some legitimately terrifying moments. I love this game so freaking much, and the darker tones and atmosphere just really hits it home for me. Infamous 2. This is another amazing PS3 game. This actually made me love the PS3 because I did play PS3 games before, but this game made me love it the most. Because this game just made me truly feel kind of like Legend of Zelda, like I was part of the adventure. It felt different from other adventure games I played at the time, and it was just so much fun to play. Kicking people's kicking enemies' asses has never been so satisfying here. The story was really good, although at times it could get a little nonsensical, but it was mostly very good. And I love that it knew when to take itself seriously and when to be comedic. It was just awesome. I loved most of the characters. Um, I also really enjoyed the large amount of missions you can play. It's just so much fun doing all the missions and stuff. Actually, I do plan to 100% this game at some time because I love this game so much. I think I could do 100% completion of it. Um, so yeah, there's also a lot of different power-ups you can utilize, which I gotta say, the power-ups are freaking awesome because they have like a bunch of different uses. Like you've got a shockwave that can push cars out of the way or just knock enemies backwards. You've also got electric grenades, which the name says it all. The electric grenades explode and it will paralyze enemies or even just kill them outright. And it is so good, so satisfying. Not only that, but a lot of stuff feels heavily retooled here, and I honestly think the game is better for it. I know a lot of people would say the first one is better, but I honestly think Infamous 2 succeeds in a lot of stuff that I think the first Infamous failed at. And Infamous 1 still holds up quite well, but it has dated in a few aspects. But Infamous 2 really nailed a lot of stuff, and I love it so much for that reason. Not only that, it's developed by Sucker Punch, the same guys that did the Sly Cooper series, which you know it's going to be good when Sucker Punch does it, because Sucker Punch is just a freaking awesome developer. This was a very hard decision for me to put this or Black Ops or Modern Warfare 2, because I played the hell out of both these games and I love them to death. But I had to go for Black Ops 2 by a slight margin for a couple of reasons. I love the campaign more here than I do in MW2, and I really love how it plays. Not only that, but the large amount of multiplayer modes are incredibly fun for me. I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of this game, especially when I played it with my friends, because me and my friends would get together and play this game all the damn time, split screen. It was just so much fun. Honestly, I do think playing split screen in this game is better than it is playing online, because although the online servers are still pretty... Although it is fun to play online here, I do think playing split screen is so much better, because you don't have to worry about a bunch of little shits saying that they banged your mom or whatnot, or any of that garbage. And it's just a lot more fun. And it's just a lot more fun seeing their reactions. It's just a lot more enjoyable. Plus, you don't have to worry about lag unless the game tanks just because there's too much action happening on screen. But other than that, it's good stuff. And the zombies mode was a lot of fun too. Mortal Kombat 9. I love the Mortal Kombat series. I've been a huge fan since I was 10 when I first played MK on the SNES, although at the time I didn't know it was censored, as I didn't know much about the MK series until later on in my life when I first played MK Deadly Alliance, but I did become a fan after playing the first MK, and then I played Deadly Alliance and I became even more of a fan, and I just wanted to play the later games, and then emulation happened and I started playing these games more. But this game really solidified that for me, because this game brought so many things back from the older games, but it also brought in a lot of fresh new content as well, which I love that. I also love that it brought back the original style of gameplay, which feels so much more responsive and tight compared to the 3D Mortal Kombat games on the PS2, but I still found these games to be a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. But this one just feels the most fun out of all the other games. I even prefer this over MKX because it just plays better in my opinion. And I love playing this game with friends. It is just a good time all around. It also gets rid of the fluff and filler for the characters, and it keeps in the important ones. It keeps in all the characters from MKs 1 through 3, along with including Quan Chi from MK4, which I thought that was kind of a nice little bonus. It even also, the interesting thing is the PS3 version contains Kratos from the God of War series. However, I think this inclusion of him was wasted because Kratos does not fit well within this game, because he is incredibly slow and his Blades of Chaos really don't translate well to a fighting like this. I think with better optimization and configuration, he could have been so much better, but I don't know, I just wasn't a big fan of Kratos here. But other than that, I absolutely love the hell out of this game for the way it plays, the fatalities, and I even love the fact that it actually teaches you that there is a mode that teaches you how to use the fatalities, which I think is a godsend, because it actually allows newcomers to get into the game and try to help them experience the game to its fullest, which I think is awesome. So yeah, awesome stuff. God of War 3. This game is amazing. I love God of War 2, but God of War 3 I'd have to say is my favorite game in the series. As much as I love the new God of War, I think it's amazing despite the style change. God of War 3 has to be my favorite for a number of reasons, because I love the gameplay. It feels I think it controls the best, it plays the best, it looks the best. Well, obviously God of War 4, the God of War remake looks the best, but I love how it looks, though. I love how God of War 3 looks, and I love the story. It just feels like a satisfying conclusion to the hack-and-slash saga. And then the God of War reboot would bring in a new beginning to the series and breathe new life into it, which I thought was quite cool. the God of War 3 was just a satisfying conclusion to the Greek mythology that graced the series, and I think it is just amazing for that reason. Now for some PlayStation 1 games. Tekken 3. I love the Tekken series so much. I said before, it's my favorite fighting game franchise. But out of all the Tekken games, despite the others being really awesome as well, and despite being the series being my most favorite, the Tekken game I found to be my most favorite of all would easily have to be Tekken 3. This is the game that got me started on the series in the first place, and I played the absolute hell out of it, wanting to get better and better as I played for every loss that I did have, and the more I played it, the more I loved it, and I couldn't put it down. I love this game to death. I wasted so many hours playing through this game, and out of all PS1 games, this is the one I've spent the most time on, and I absolutely love it. It's just so much fun to play. This game I feel controls and plays the best. It also looks the best out of the PS1 Tekken games, and it is just incredibly fun to play. Not only that, but there is a ton of content, especially with multiplayer. Like, playing with friends is just so much fun here. I just wish more of my friends around me I just wish more of my friends would play Tekken, because most of my friends, except for my brother, they enjoy fighting games, but Tekken is the one series that most people won't even play with me. Well, except for one of them, but most of the time they just won't play this series with me, and that's kind of a shame because I love Tekken. It's like the one fighting game franchise I can actually kick some serious ass at, and I would love to play with someone who is just as experienced as I am. Because really, I think it's an awesome game. I just wish I had more people to play with. And before you ask, I don't have Tekken 7 yet. I really do need to get it, especially considering how big a fan I am, but yeah, I just don't have it yet. I will soon, though. Lunar, the Silver Star story completes. There is a lot of emotional backstory I have with this game. This was the first game I ever played where it actually gave me where it actually had an emotional impact on me. Like, the story was incredibly engaging to me. I love the themes it goes for, and I just love the music and how it plays. There is one big issue I do have with the game, is that it's really fucking difficult. Like, at times it can be extremely brutal, but because it was a game that I played so much of when I was younger, and that it's such a big part of my childhood, I wasn't going to stop playing, and I wanted to see it through to the end. So I did, after much trial and error, and I was very satisfied with the conclusion. The game just... My god. To describe it in words would be very difficult, because I love this game so freaking much, and I could go on and on about it for hours and hours on end, but I'm already wasting so much freaking time here, especially considering we're almost an hour into this video, so yeah, I gotta speed this up. But I love Lunar so much because I love the characters, I love the anime style, I love how it plays, and I just love the music. It's just great. And the thing about this is, when I actually got my own copy of it, I wanted to make sure it had all the discs in there. And what I mean by that is 2 of the game discs, 1 music disc, and 1 making of disc. Well, 1 bonus disc, which is the making of Lunar, or Lunar, as I always pronounce it. And needless to say, I did get it all. The 2 game discs, which is awesome. The soundtrack, which is also awesome, and the bonus disc, which is the making of, which even has a hidden Easter egg where you can play a lunar version of Warlords, which is pretty cool. I like that. It's a nice little Easter egg. So yeah, this is my... I haven't really played that many Working Designs games, but this is my favorite one for sure. I absolutely love this game. If you haven't played a Lunar game, you should definitely play this, because it is amazing, but fair warning, it is difficult, so keep that in mind. Metal Gear Solid, the first one. I love the second one more, but the first one I love the first one a whole lot myself. This game got me into not only got me into this series, but it was the series that really made me appreciate more story-driven games like this, especially considering how well the story is written. And although the cutscenes are pretty damn long, especially considering this is Metal Gear Solid we are talking about, there's a reason why they're this long, because because Hideo Kojima wanted to express his creative freedom with this game, and I don't blame him, and I think this creative freedom really shines through with it, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. I also love how it plays, even though it is a little dated by today's standards. I still love it today. It's very quotable, and especially in the beginning of the game, there's just a lot of lines I have memorized from it. And honestly, there's just so much about this game that I love. It's such an amazing experience. If you haven't played the Metal Gear Solid series, I'd say start with this. Even though the game looks pretty dated today, and especially in the controls department to some degree, I think it's still worth going back to, especially if you want to know more about the story. Now for some Super Nintendo games I got here. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. I will admit, I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with this game back then. When I was younger, I absolutely loved it, thought it was one of the best games ever made. But then I went through a period of hating it, and that was only because this game gave me nightmares when I was a kid, or more so a preteen, because I was 11 when this game gave me nightmares. It did give me nightmares prior to that, but the one nightmare I had when I was 11 was what really killed it for me. And as such, I just wanted to try and finish the game and then just stop playing afterwards, so I threw it in the trash because I hated it. And I regret that, because honestly, I couldn't, because the older I got, the more I started realizing I never actually hated the game. I only ended up distancing myself from it because of that nightmare I had. And I never should have done that, because I love it. I actually still love this game, and I just couldn't hide it anymore. And then when I was 15, I finally got back into it, and I never realized how much I loved it until I got back in, and I was like, why did I hate this game? Except for the nightmare, I don't really understand why I even hated this, because I absolutely fucking love this game. It is so much fun. I love how it plays. I love the music. I love the aesthetics. It's just so damn good, and it's so memorable too. There's so many things about this I could never forget. It's a game that's been ingrained into my memory for years. If you haven't, well, I don't think I should say that, because I'm pretty sure just about every gamer has played a Mario game at this point, but if you haven't played this game for some reason, please play it. It's available on SNES Classic, or hell, emulated. I don't care. Just play it. It's an amazing game. F-Zero, the original. I love F-Zero X as well, but this one I like just a little bit more. I love this game to freaking absolute death. It is just so much fun. It is relatively short, and there aren't very many cars to choose from, but there's a reason I love this game so much. I love this game because of the music, because of how it plays, because of how it looks, the challenge, and the cars do feel nice to control. Not only that, the courses are a lot of fun, except for Wildland 2. That one can go fuck itself. But I also really like the hacks that people make for these games because it does allow me to experience the game in another light, which is quite cool, seeing different variations of these courses, and I think it is amazing. But I don't even think the hacking community for F-Zero is even alive anymore. But if they are, and there are some new hacks being released for it, please let me know. I would love to hear it in the comments. Just send me a link. But anyways, I love this game so much. It has a very profound impact on me, and this was also the very first racing game I remember playing along with Super Mario Kart. I played this one so many times, and it made me love racing games. So, yeah, F-Zero is just an amazing racing game, despite despite its age. Super Mario World. I honestly have to give this game a lot of credit. Not only is it one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo, but it's also the first game I ever played, and the one that introduced me into the world of video games as I know it today. I love this game so damn much. From the music, the gameplay, the controls, the memorable nature, the nostalgic factor, everything. It's just so good, so iconic. It's an awesome game. There's a reason why I picked this as one of my favorites in my collection. And the next two games I have here are Game Boy Advance games, which are very near and dear to me. Pokemon Fire Red, which this was actually my second copy because I let someone borrow my first copy, but I never got it back. I was very pissed off, especially considering uh, the kid I let borrow just kept making a lot of excuses as to why he couldn't bring it with him, because he said he was still playing through it, or he lost it, or was trying to find it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this kid was making a lot of excuses, and I was just pissed. I was really pissed. But then my cousin gave me his copy of Fire Red, and I was very happy that he did, because this is a very important Pokemon game to me for many reasons. This was the first Pokemon game I ever truly beat, and this was also the first Pokemon game I ever got a level 100 Pokemon in. And I still play this game to this day. It's such a memorable game. I love it that much. It's just amazing. Freaking awesome stuff. And the next one I have that I consider my favorite, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which a friend helped me get. Thank you very much. Um, and there's a funny story about this. When I first got it, my mom actually gave it to me as a birthday gift when I first got my Game Boy. And I played this game quite a lot. And then one day my uncle came over and he had a Game Boy too. And he told me he actually had a Crash and Spyro double pack on the system, which I was super ecstatic when I heard, oh wow, Crash and Spyro on the Game Boy Advance? Please, let me give it a shot. So I went and played it, and then my uncle asked me if I would like to keep it. And I said I would absolutely love to. And he said, I think either I asked him or he asked me. I'm not really sure which one it was, but in exchange he wanted me to trade a game with him for it. And the game I traded him for it was Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. And while I love this game, I wanted the fact that it was Crash and Spyro or especially Spyro, which was one of my favorite video game franchises at the time, on a Game Boy system, of course I wanted it. So I let him. So I traded that in with him, just so I could have the Crash and Spyro Super Pack. And while I am thankful that I got to experience the game, especially considering I let my uncle have a really awesome game, part of me kind of wishes I didn't do that because, well, the games really aren't that great. Spyro Orange is nothing more than just a collection of mini games, and the mini games play the exact same way. And it's clear that Vicarious Visions really didn't put a whole lot of effort into it. Yet the Crash Bandicoot game, while not great, was much better by comparison, and it was actually all right for what it is. It actually did feel like a Crash game, and the mini games actually did feel like they had more effort. But the Spyro game wasn't very good. But I didn't hold it against my uncle because at the time I was a naive kid, and I still don't hold it against him because really I think he deserved to play that amazing game because later on I would get this copy again from a good friend of mine because I missed the game so freaking much. I just loved it that much. And I got it, and I'm really happy I got it again because I love this game. It is so freaking good. Although I still prefer Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is my second favorite Mario RPG. It is an awesome game. And the last game in my top 30 favorite games I have in my collection is a game that I sadly no longer have the case for because I lost it. And that is Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 on the Nintendo Wii. I don't have the PS2 version, and that is only because when I got this game back in 2008 when it was still relatively new, and it was like $20, and I got it for my 13th birthday. And the game still works, actually. I'm very happy it does, because the game is skyrocketing in price. More so on the PS2 version, but it is still going up on the Wii version as well. But I love this game so much. Just like Smash Brothers, Melee, and Tekken 3, this was another fighting game I wasted countless hours on. I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of this game. It was just so much fun to play. From the third-person behind-the-back view to the amazing special attacks you could dish out, and I was one of those weird kids who played with the Wii remote because I love the idea of motion controls. I still like motion controls, but I also understand that motion controls can be very gimmicky and they can be very poorly done, but I honestly don't have a problem with motion controls as long as they're done right. I know there are a lot of games that really don't do it very well, but this is a game I think does it quite well. Though it may be limited emotions, I still had a lot of fun playing this game. I unlocked every single character there is, and I unlocked almost every one of the stages. Though I haven't 100% completed the game, but I did beat the game's campaign, and I unlocked every character, and I still love playing this game. Just wish I had more friends to play it with, but hey, get what you give. Love this game to freaking death. So that is it. That is my top 30 favorite games I have in my collection. And in no particular order either. I'm really sorry this video turned out so long. It turned out a lot longer than I expected, but I just wanted to take the time to share my thoughts on these games and why I consider them my favorite and why they mean so much to me. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.